outside.
Darlene might be able to.
Somebody's outside.
Yeah, Tish was outside. All right, 6 o'clock. Let's do it. Is there a password for the Wi-Fi? Is there a password for the Wi-Fi?
There is a password, is there? There is.
Password?
I'll have to go look at the wall.
Oh, no, forget it.
No, it's not that.
It's not that. Call the meeting to order. And we, first on the agenda is approve minutes from 6/20/22, please.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any changes? No? Excellent job, Mr. Moore. Thank you so much.
Not me.
Oh, wasn't you?
No.
Oh, no, sorry.
That's okay.
You still
I'll
did
take
an excellent
credit.
job. Wait.
Introduction, does everybody know Lisa?
Well,
Yay.
Lisa's been, Lisa's pinch for Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. I just saw you.
WCC access.
Thanks. Thanks.
All right, so approved minutes, all those in favor? All right, citizen comments.
They're pretty quiet.
Hank, would you take a moment and scan the audience?
Well, Hank, you have anything to say?
Nice job. Thank you. All right, presentation of school programs.
Anything?
No.
Not under there.
No, none. Their whole business.
None?
None, seeing none, moving on to instructional issues. So we're gonna have the second reading and adoption of policies. So hopefully we're all good with this. I'm gonna vote on them together and, motion all together and then talk about them individually.
Okay.
All right,
Motion to approve the policies on second reading 1 through 5.
thank you.
I'll second that.
All right, now we can talk about them.
All those in favor of that motion?
All those in favor? This is why I keep trying.
Now you're all.
All right, GCPB, resignation of professional staff members. Good. GCQA, non-school employment by professional staff members. GBCE, background investigation and criminal history check. JCDAD, smoking, deleting, and JEB, age of entrance. Any questions? Changes? Issues? No? All those in favor? Thank you. Personnel actions, election of Cynthia Engelbell, Grace, technology facilitator. She seems amazing. Yeah.
Seems it.
Right?
Great job.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so, motion to approve? Motion?
Second?
All those in favor? Awesome. Business affairs, FYI 2023, 22, 23 budget status report. Look good.
You guys are in good shape right now.
I hope so. We will not be blinking. All right. There was the budget transfers between functions, which I saw line item. Does anybody have any questions on those? No.
That was just, remember the summary,
Yeah.
voted to move some of those numbers.
And we're gonna consider increase in school lunch prices to $3.60, I believe.
Yeah, I can talk to that. So, you folks haven't addressed the school lunch prices in quite a few years.
Correct.
And I think it's 2015, if I can find that. And the state actually goes through quite the process to calculate out specific to the schools. So this is a 25-cent increase for school lunch prices. And I recommend that you move in that direction.
Great.
Yep.
Makes sense. Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Is this the Bartlett price for us, or is this the?
That's a great question. No, this is, and that leads to the next question, item C.
I see.
So, well, I'll get into that because, so this is for students. So students would come in and they'd pay $3.60. Bartlett's gonna have to go back and figure out, and they're charging $3.60 for their students as well. But they also run a deficit for their food program. So I think they're gonna be okay, but they're trying to crunch some numbers in the office to say, hey, look, it's actually costing $4 per meal to get to here. production
Uh,
guys.
production.
So that's that contract that you have between Bartlett and here, because what we can't do is we can't have Bartlett subsidize
Absolutely.
Jackson's lunch program.
Right.
So this is specifically for your students in your school. So you already signed a contract back in March, I believe, I was looking at it earlier, and it was at $3.25. So it's gonna have to be reworked. More than likely, it'll be right around that $3.60, but it may be a little bit more that they would charge you folks. They aren't gonna push that down to the kids.
So they're not charging us for transportation?
No, you guys pay for that.
We do that ourselves,
Yeah.
so it's just the preparation, okay.
The food costs have gone up significantly, labor costs, those type of things. And like I said, they're running a deficit, they run a deficit. You just have to be careful that they aren't subsidizing you.
Right, okay, all right, good. Do we need to vote on that?
You need to vote on the increase.
Make a motion to increase the food cost from $3.30, $3.25 to $3.60.
Second.
All those in favor? All right. Report superintendent.
Yeah, just a few pieces. Gail and I will be meeting as far as that principal search piece, reviewing the job description, and then the contract, because it's morphed a few times. So I want to clean that up, and then I'll be scheduling a personnel committee meeting with, is it you and Kate? You and Kate. And then
When will that happen?
probably in a few weeks, I'll send you out an email when they're
Perfect.
available.
Yep.
And then we want to get some feedback on qualities and those type of things, engaging the board and the community.
Absolutely.
I'm sure it'll be, maybe we can even do it before the next September meeting, have a non-meeting scheduled time. And then really it's October's when we started to develop the advertisement and recruitment strategies. It's hard to believe that, the reality, we were talking about this is this is, kind of the final year here. And then get a committee together in later fall.
And we have some of the things, I know Jen and I, right, we have at least.
Yeah,
school
we
board.
have members that
Yeah.
we've started. So
Yeah.
we're just gonna start pushing on the
Great.
process now. And that's the biggest thing. The other thing is, there are a couple other pieces. CDC just put out new guidelines Friday for the return to school for schools. I've been through that pretty significantly and met with the medical community folks this morning. So I'll draft something up for you folks. Not a whole lot of big sweeping changes, other than the isolation piece is really a little bit different. So if there's a home contact and the guidance around those pieces. But those are available if you just type in CDC. They just, like I said, came out Friday, so we'll be updating some of those pieces, and then as a board, you can weigh in on that. The other thing is we have the high school tuition contract meeting Thursday night. It got postponed, but that's the first meeting of all the different towns that are currently engaged in the tuition contract, so that'll be kicking off a little bit more. And the other pieces, and I kind of highlighted it, was the modification to the lunch contract with Bartlett. You'll be seeing something at the next meeting just to modify that. You've signed an agreement at the lower lunch prices, and I don't think it's going to be real significant. And the last thing was, I was talking to Bridget, and the final numbers are not quite there yet, but it looks like your budget, you've expended, and I don't know if it's been this close in the district of this size before, but 97.25% of your budget you expended this year, which
Wow, I
is,
don't think we've ever come close.
it looks around about $80,000 of a $3 million budget is left, so that is pretty close. Yeah, it was,
Good job, again.
Yeah.
yeah, good job, Lord. But that's about it for me at this point.
Kevin, just to try to get ahead a little bit of the, sometimes we get pushback on our lunch program.
Yes.
From the community saying that we probably do it cheaper somewhere else.
Okay.
And just be prepared for that. I mean, I completely agree with the idea that there's no reason Bartlett should be subsidizing any of our lunch program at all. And it's not always easy to try to figure what that number out is. So I don't see anybody on the board having an issue with that, but we should be prepared to have questions from the public when we do agree to that number,
Yeah.
or why we're supporting that number.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a formula that comes out, this $3.60 an hour, I mean, $3.60 a meal. They analyze all the different costs throughout the state. The state actually assists in putting a recommendation to that, and they would recommend a little bit higher. One key thing for the general public is free and reduced hot lunch. Not everybody this year is free. And it's going to be really important for parents and community members to fill out those forms. Those will be coming out, and making sure that if people are eligible, they have to fill out the paperwork now, and that's really important.
I don't think we could go through any math and rationale checking in, but maybe Jen, you can, at the next meeting, be prepared to talk about it a little bit, and say like, there's no restaurants that would be able to supply.
No, well, first of
schools
all,
with lunch.
we actually looked into it when we first started, 15 years after we were here, a couple of years, to take it over when the contract came up. And the recommendations on the dietary needs, but also the establishment that it comes from, there's just nothing around. Like, nobody in the town here has the facilities that they require to do it. So just that, I don't even know how they make it so cheap, So, but yes, I can talk to you, yes.
Just for context, when did it last increase?
2000.
5 years, 6 years ago.
So that's, I mean, just that in and of itself is a really good fact to have in mind. Yeah,
Right. And I can certainly speak to the food costs going on.
I'm sure.
Sorry, okay,
Yeah, 2015.
thank you. All right, Gail?
So I have a couple of things, sorry I didn't get them on the agenda ahead of time, but the hiring status. As you see, we have hired a technology facilitator, and that's going to be a good thing. She'll have 14 hours a week as opposed to the 7 we were able to get by borrowing Allison from Bartlett. The other area where that will be really helpful is that we have not found a library media specialist. So the technology, you can see that she's got a teaching background more than a technology background, which will be really helpful to the teaching staff. And she'll be able to pick up some of the competencies that the library media specialist would have taken on, such as research and new digital citizenship requirements, safety online, all of those kinds of things. So I have requested to meet with the library this week to discuss how we might move forward on that.
The library, being the Jackson Library.
The Jackson Public Library.
Because I saw something in their minutes saying something like, there had not been a proposal.
Remember that?
And that was
Right.
one of my questions, so.
Yeah,
okay.
last week, I think, maybe?
Yeah, the
I
minutes.
just contacted them today.
Perfect,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And also, per Kevin's suggested and request, we have not had a certified mentor or consultant working with that person all of last year. And to keep up with the school approval standards, we really need a certified person to be consulting and working with us. So I'll need to take the budget for the library media specialist and split that, paying partially the library and also the consultant. And we'll make sure the library understands that we need to build in additional consultation time to work with that individual.
Great.
So
It's a workaround.
it is a workaround. I have an interview next week, one applicant for the one-on-one paraprofessional, so we'll see how that pans out. I had a candidate for the after-school support person, but she has withdrawn.
No.
And I do have a potential applicant for the after-school coordinator, but those 3 positions are not officially filled. I don't have candidates to recommend at this time.
While we're there, in the past, I've polled the board with a candidate. You don't have a meeting until September 17th. If we get a viable candidate that meets muster, we'll send that out. You can approve
Yeah.
electronically, and we'll vote officially. Or you can authorize me to hire a person, and you can confirm it at the next meeting.
We offer it to you.
Thank you.
Good. And then the other piece is, we've met and had a strategic plan, and I shared a draft of my goals with you. I just wanted to quickly review what has kind of sifted to the top in terms of priority for our Jackson School goals. So the first one is the math implementation that we're doing SAU-wide. The students across the district, the scores have been lower than we would have expected. Research in new methods support a different way of teaching and instruction, which I'll talk about a little bit further down. And having students develop a strong and positive math mindset where in the old days, some people were good at math and some people were not great at math. So this is more about how do you figure out math problems and be able to communicate, learn the vocabulary, do the algorithms, and then collaborate with your peers on that. So we made use of last year training Kristen as our in the building math coach, sort of semi-math coach, but she'll continue to work with Krista Bichet from SAU-9 as the math facilitator and the other team of teachers that were trained to bring that training out into the classrooms of all of the teachers. So now all of the SAU-9 teachers, Bartlett teachers, and Jackson teachers will all be experiencing the same type of training. A good part of that is Krista coming here and doing model lessons, but also our teachers going to other schools and observing them and then having conversations with them about the instructional routines that they're seeing. And part of that is using a new, what they call open source math program. It's not contained within a textbook. It's online lessons that are geared towards certain more personalized instructional methods for individual small groups or groups of children based on grade level math standards. The teachers will also get some professional developing on unit planning and how to use the assessment, the OGAP assessment, which I mentioned here, ongoing assessment procedures, is now a continuum of how math develops over time. So they'll use that to target where the students are and make sure they're getting instruction at the appropriate levels in their independent personalized math plan. Let's see, so that will require, I wanted to give folks an idea of how much time the teachers will be committing to that. There'll be 2 to 3 hours of release time, which means we get a sub for them and release them to go participate in these lessons per month. And 1 PLC or 2 PLCs a month, Kristen will be working with them here where they'll be sharing and discussing with each other. So that's goal number 1. Goal number 2 is the emergency operations plan.
It's kind of off topic, but the new math and this new way, what areas of the country and what system of math are they using where they're getting the better grades? Like, is that what we're gonna copy
This is
or?
research based, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very much so, so, yeah.
So we've looked at the areas
This
where
has been
that
very
people
well
are
vetted by the
excelling, and then we're gonna
math
adapt.
person.
We're not creating the wheel again, right?
You.
Like,
No.
we're actually gonna go with something that seems to be working somewhere else and adapt it here. Okay, okay, thank you.
And that's why it's not one book for everybody. It's a
Right.
whole host of selected lessons and routines based on how you assess what you do on the assessment and the methods that you're.
It's hard, right? I mean, it takes time to realize if something's working or not.
Right.
And is it working for a majority?
That's the key, and this is more individualized, personalized. And that's always the tricky part, having taught math for a number of years, trying to get that just right curriculum for students, because that's the old adage, my kid's bored, or this is too hard.
Right.
And finding that way to do it. So this just gives more resources and tools to teachers to be able to move that forward.
No more just following the book chapter by chapter.
Right.
It's more about a unit on fractions and then where is everybody within that and the way that they figure out or manipulate fractions. Some might be still trying to understand the visual concept of the fractional cubes and doing it by hand, and others might be multiplying and dividing it and doing more advanced algorithms with fractions, even though
And
they're
we're not gonna like, just focus on just getting everybody up to par.
No.
It's, accelerating those that need it and then making sure everybody is comfortable and where they should be right from, up to par.
That's the key.
And then, and again, like, this is a proven method somewhere else that has worked for somewhere, other students.
Yes.
Because
And
there's so
then-
many.
I don't know if you know Krista, but I had the opportunity to observe her probably 8 or 9, 10 years ago when we were doing our instructional rounds, and I was immediately impressed with her math workshop and how she involved all of the kids, whether they were here or whether they were here. They were all participating in the lesson in a meaningful way, and she just had such a nice way. So she's really awesome at modeling what she's talking about.
Great.
But also the staff here feel not threatened by that either. Like she's able to kind of move the thinking process forward in a way that makes everybody feel comfortable and successful.
Well, I mean, our staff is exceptional, so I'm not concerned, with that. And math is fun, so it's just trying to make it, good. Okay, good. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. So the emergency operation plan, current events, of course, have driven this, but even before current events, we had a Homeland Security analysis done by the State Department of Homeland Security. They filled out a report not only on our building, our facility, and our procedures, but the way that our plan was put together. And as Darby, we spent a lot of time redoing the plan using their template, which was some 147 pages long.
153 pages, I thought it was, Gail.
Yeah. And then we involved Jake Henry and Chief Pearlie as part of that process too, and talked with them about what they saw as the strengths and weaknesses of the plan. And part of their feedback indicated that we would need to spend additional time with training the teachers or retraining them in a sense on some of what they refer to as annexes, which I prefer to call the protocol for if there's an earthquake, or the protocol if there's a vapor gas leak or a hurricane tornado, and that, heaven forbid, active shooter is in there specifically as well. So we're going to start in the fall and try to do one annex each month with the staff. We won't do drills with the kids on everything. Some of, particularly the shooter one, will be something we talk about, but don't necessarily drill the students on at this point. But I have scheduled with Chief Pearlie, he's coming to talk with the staff in September about ALICE training. And then we'll be setting something up, which is how to respond in an active shooter situation, or all of the different things that you can or should think about. So
Now
sadly,
that COVID's over, are they gonna have, like, the police come in and do also meeting and the firemen come back in their uniforms and talk to the kids?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
I found
And that was
bad.
part of Jay Henry's plan, was during Fire Safety Month. One of the things we did 5-6 years ago was to have an actual, the volunteer fire department people actually come to the school in all of their gear, and they try to find the smoke alarm that John Stokey would hold. And so they get a chance to get some real hands-on experience with our building. And we found that there was kind of a long response time when they dialed 911. So this is just a test. We'll do the same thing again to see how the response.
No, I like that. And anything that the kids can see these people in uniform, because they're so scared when they're in uniform and in a situation, makes it easier for the kids and the staff, less traumatic.
So we'll do that. And I wanted you to be aware of the ALICE training piece too, should there be any questions from staff or families about that, so you're aware of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. So part of the recommendations from the Homeland Security report also were some of the security features, like building a vestibule in the front of the school, reinforcing our glass.
Yeah, I wouldn't get into too many details.
Right.
In the public, that's seriously.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
guys would like to see those reports, we'd be happy to go into non-public
Okay.
to share some of those.
So John is writing a grant for some of the things they suggested we invest in to make the school more secure.
Great, thank you. We can do that.
So there's limited money at the state level, but hopefully we can get that going. They have to be submitted by August 26th, and we'll see.
And then the last big goal encompasses a lot of different things: social emotional learning, the DEI piece, the bias, and all of those fall under the Portrait of a Learner. At our administrative retreat, we spent a lot of time discussing what would our kiddos be doing and what would our staff be doing if we were really working towards developing those Portrait of a Learner tenets with them, and so that we as administrators too could identify things that were or were not in keeping with the goals that we had. As you know, the reason why is because the strategic plan developed this, and it's the will of the community, and it will develop individual students that are global citizens and active in their community, hopefully. So the school counselor, they just completed the social emotional learning competencies for SAE 9. So we'll be beginning to pilot adding those into our instructional routines. During PLC time, they'll be using those as well, and continuing to work with how do you embed those into lessons across all content areas, not lessons by themselves necessarily, but in math. I was kind of looking through some of the math, and communication being one of them, and processes of learning, and the mindset math, but all things that we can teach through the content, but get at the competencies and the Portrait of a Learner tenets in a combined way, an integrated way. So we have also decided to focus on character, the character quadrant of that Portrait of a Learner first. So one of the things that we had agreed to do was look at neurodiversity, which is different learning styles, learning needs, ability levels, and so forth, as our first focus area, and provide workshops for families and staff members on inclusion for folks with neurodevelopmental differences, and also complete a study of implicit bias and how it would impact our work with children and families. I know there were other parent book groups that were not necessarily part of professional development that we had talked about, so they're not included in the plan, but they're still something we're going to implement. Hopefully through the PTO, try to get the PTO to get involved to work with families. And I just, number 4 is basically other pieces that we're required to do by law. This suicide training, every staff member must do 2 hours of online or otherwise some different kind of suicide awareness training and how to handle it, what to do about it. We're renewing our CPR every 3 years. We offer the staff a course to be sure that we're first aid and CPR trained and can use an AED. So that's happening the second day of teacher workshop day this year. And just some other committees, which I think I shared with you the last time we met. I shared with you a list of teachers that are on different committees. So
they're going to update the CPR based on women are different than men now?
I saw that on the news the
Yeah.
other night.
It only took him 60 years. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
I will keep my comments to myself. Yeah.
Well, the research shows that people are more reluctant to do CPR on a woman than they are on a man.
Is that right?
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
And so women have a much less of a
Survival.
chance of being revived because people don't want to put the
Okay.
electrodes on them.
Uh-huh.
It was really an interesting study.
Thank you, Gail. That was great. While we're speaking on things, I need to know or would like to know what our procedure is going to be for drop-off and pick-up. What are you thinking?
That is in our handbook. We're going sort of halfway back.
Okay.
We're going to have the kiddos dropped off here out of the front loop
Yep.
in the morning. I'm encouraging people to start using the bus again if we're truly environmentally conscious, to have more than half of our student body coming individually in cars. doesn't really make a whole lot of environmental sense. So if everybody used the bus, it makes it easier at drop-off time, they all come at the same time. We're not starting so many vehicles around the community and less idling. So we'll drop off here, we have people on duty and they'll enter the school that way. We do want to maintain the after-school pickup of having it be individual instead of having everybody
Released onto the playground.
released onto the playground.
Why is that?
We have hopefully, we'll have an after-school program on the playground 3 days out of the week. And, to be checked, the kids, after they went with their parents, often would rush through the playground, climb over the snowbanks. There was safety concerns in front of the bus. Parents aren't always watching their children as closely as we would like. So for the safety of everybody and on the buses and the roads, we don't have the police after school either. We have them in the morning, but we don't have them after school.
Okay.
But we are inviting families in, and they can pick up their children and go to the playground with their children. They just need to be,
Okay,
adult needs to be with the child all of the time.
that makes sense, okay.
What about preschool? What's before school time? Are there restrictions on that? I know you're saying that,
Like if you walk your kids to school, I think.
yeah, like are they can they use the playground before school, things like that?
Yes, as long as there's an adult with them, and not depending on teacher, like staff supervision, no staff supervision available.
Okay. Good?
Mhm.
Thank you. That's a lot. Thank you very much. All right, committee reports. The policy committee, well, we did our policies, we're good for now. Personnel committee, nothing yet, okay. You're gonna be busy, okay. Facilities and transportation committee, we did that, right? We did. All right. High school options committee, I think we reviewed that. Anything else? Oh, no, we had a meeting
That's
today.
the other.
That's the
Every-
other.
This is Darlene.
Every meeting for the next year will
2
be
years.
reporting on the agenda. We've had 2 meetings of our group, and today was our 3rd meeting. Some attended by Zoom. So we're looking at a matrix of questions that the committee would like to consider, looking at different schools, and then looking at what would be the best option for Jackson, all of Jackson students for high school. And that is the goal that we'll be looking at. So our goal right now is on the May 15th school board meeting, be a presentation of the summary recommendations from the committee. And then our decision will need to be made, we'll have 1 year from then to give our decision in to Conway as to whether or not we are going to continue with the contract or withdraw from the tuition contract as it is stated. And again, as Kevin mentioned, the other committee is starting up this week. And, we'll kind of see where other school systems, are going with different districts and see what happens with that. So our next meeting for the high school options official grouping meeting is the same night as our next school board meeting. We're going to meet before, and that seemed to work out today. So
What about the Thursday's meeting?
Thursday meeting is
Isn't there another
That's-
Thursday meeting?
that's the meeting Thursday that you said you could go to. That's the one in Kennett Middle School in the
Okay.
professional development, and that is for all the
All
schools.
And that's just speaker, right?
Tamworth, at 3.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
Matt Upton, the attorney, is going to come up.
All right. Okay, that's good. All right. Thank you, I appreciate your time and effort on that.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's daunting, so thank you. And I would have come today, but I was still on my way back. So, and I thank you all for changing tonight's meeting. It was invaluable to my friend that I was there yesterday and today, so thank you. All right, enrichment committee,
Nothing, just trying to send love and support for a hire.
DEI inclusion committee.
Nothing right now, just to say that there will be more action. We've just been in conversation about some next steps. So yeah, I think that probably by the next
Safety Committee.
All right, so I had the opportunity to spend, I think, 3 meetings here at Jackson Grammar School this summer. And I must tell you, I was very impressed with the teamwork. Susan Ross Parent and John got me to figure out certain things on my iPad, and Gail, they worked so well as a team to fill in this 153-page document. Great ideas. They absolutely have the mindset to work the best for all of the Jackson students, their parents, and to have a safe community. The third session was interesting because the chief of police and the fire chief came. And we had to form some questions from the prior meetings and were able to pose them to the chief. It was great for me. It brought me way back to my time in school. I'd been through all of this planning myself, so seeing it in a formal document, was great. And, again, they worked so well as a team, and now I can progress to the next level. So thank you for that. There's actually one more committee on here that I'm on, that I need to report on too.
Go ahead.
Whitney Center Committee. So the Whitney Center, and Gail's also on, we're changing up the format of the Whitney Center Committee. There's going to be now the Oversight Committee that will make financial considerations, and now there's going to be a Programming Committee.
That makes sense.
The person that was doing the programming and the financial piece did resign, and we just hired someone and sat in on that interview process about a week and a half ago. So got a candidate that's now accepted the position, and she'll begin right away. But we've also had a person from the community step up for programming, and that is going to be one whole division. So then the other part of the committee will meet periodically, maybe not as often as we had been meeting before, to make the decisions for the financial and the building and any of the other items that we might have to consider going forward. So you might hear some different things going on, because now we'll really be 2 Whitney committees.
Darlene, I don't know who the person is that you've hired, but it might move them to work with the Chamber of Commerce
So
for
they're going to work with
programs. You know, to
everyone.
get word out. And
They're working with everyone.
good. Okay.
The community involvement is what their key was, that they want to be involved with the community. They're speaking, to all the organizations in the area to get them involved, and they don't want to overlap, the big things the library's offering, and the programming person, not the person we hired, but the volunteer, is from the Friends of the Library, so they have some background and stuff that's going on through the library, and they also have a wealth of knowledge that they'll be bringing to work with this person.
Will there be an announcement of who it is in e-news or something?
I guess that's Gail and I are just worker bees, right, Gail?
That's right. And I'm thrilled that they're dividing the committee, because there was lots of times where it wasn't about policies or relationship with the school or anything relevant really to me. The programming was great, but
No, I think that would be great.
dividing it out and having 2 functions, the administrative function for one half of the group and the programming, I think is going to be good.
Right, because we were always, every conversation was about yoga, it's in the chair, or it's stand-up yoga, should we do that for 6 more weeks? And then, then there were the emails back and forth, and, so that piece, as Gail said, that really didn't relate directly to the school and things that we might have had more interest in, from a functional standpoint.
And from a relationship standpoint, I guess I want a little clarification what you mean by the financing piece of it. But this is still with the Oversight Committee, it's just a kind of subcommittees in it now?
Right. I would describe it as a subcommittee. So this person from the outside, the volunteer, has offered to work with programming, and so the person that's been hired will work with them on doing all the programming.
And the only reason I asked this was we have contractual obligations in our relationship with the Whitney Foundation.
Right, oh, they're very aware. It's
And
I think, Jerry, it's actually closer to what the
intention.
intention
It-
was
it sounds like it to
of
me,
the
too.
oversight committee being the administrative board and then
and when you mean financing, you mean how we receive money and how, like, when people
from
pay
the
for fees?
programs. Right.
You're not talking about the friends of the community?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Excellent.
Good, that'll be great. The town facilities meeting, those are going well. I've had to chair the last several myself. So we finally have an objective and a mission that we all agree on. So that's good. You'll be looking forward to seeing some listening posts from the community so that the community can attend most likely in October to see, and that will include North Country Council will come and talk to us and at a view of what a town might look like in 10, 20, 30 years. And as well as there'll be a survey out in many forms to the community as what would they like to see in this community moving forward. Nothing particular. And then there'll also be some interesting information, which we all in the meeting found, and some of us even on the pretty close, not me, but close to what's going on in town. What does the town actually own? Where is it? What is it? Those types of things. So a little education for the community at large. Some people thought the Whitney Center here was owned by the town. You know, like things like that. And they're like legacy people. So a little education for the town as well. So it's moving along, and we have a deadline. We have to be done by February because it's going to be at the March meeting. We have to produce recommendations moving forward. So interesting.
Going back to the high school committee,
yes.
have we put a timeline on that yet as a board? When?
Which high school? She
Maybe.
just said.
She said by May.
Okay,
May
sorry.
15th, you'll get a recommendation from the high school options committee, which Kate and I are the chair people of. And then there's probably another 7 people that are involved. Kevin's on that committee. So
And
that committee is looking at
got that.
options.
I'm assuming there's going to be listening posts along the way.
There's going to be listening posts, surveys, trying to reach everyone, taxpayers,
That's what-
and we're still in that, how is the best way to do all this? Get it out, and then we're at the point where we're just about ready to do some dividing up into smaller committees.
Nice. Thank you, Darren.
You're welcome.
That's a lot, Darren. Okay, consider NHSBA membership dues for 22-23. I don't remember what the price was.
It's 25, 3,700 change, I think.
Yeah, $22,751.
All right, motion,
So moved.
second. All those in favor? Okay. Dues will be paid, all right. Consider approval of non-residential student, resident student for 22-23 school year. So everybody got that information?
Yes.
All right, at this point, any discussion?
You have enough room in that grade level?
Yes, all of the contingencies on our plan is more than sufficient space in both the grade and the combined. There's 10 students in the 5-6 altogether, and there are 6 students, including that one, in the 6th grade.
And this is recommended by you, right, Gail? Or isn't that the way it came from Kevin's?
Well, he meets all of the requirements, and has been in our school now for 4 years with his family, and they'd like him to be able to finish 6th grade with his peers. And the other consideration, which I kind of fell over, was the fact that if he doesn't attend school here, we'll have a single boy in a class full of girls, and not that, gender's a big deal, but some parents really would prefer that there's at least one other student of the same gender in there.
In the 5-6 or just the 6?
In the 6th grade.
We have that happen every like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
It goes one way. Jossie was one.
I think that's going to happen in first grade.
Brenda was
right?
one. Yeah, Camden Valley was one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
So that's when we look hard, or at least as a staff, at having a standalone. I know we've always thought that having a standalone 6 by itself was always a good thing, but there are times when it's not the greatest. In this case, we're going to try to go back to more of the separate, having a student council and some of the other activities that 6th graders do without their 5th grade counterparts. So working my way back to normal, so to speak.
So let's take these one at a time. All right, so I make a motion for the approval of the non-resident student for 22-23 school year.
Second.
All right, so all those in favor of that phase? The second phase is providing financial assistance to offset non-resident tuition. We have not had this come to.
Is there like a formal request? Is there a process? I didn't just scrolling again through the packet. There's no like.
There,
So you know, in the letter that he wrote to us, he said, this is in public, so it's, he offered for us to talk about this in public, and he's asking for any financial assistance would be appreciated.
Yeah.
And we have no process for it.
Exactly.
So it's,
That's what I'm saying.
it's basically at that face value for us to consider.
Yeah.
then we've never come across this bridge before, so
Got it.
this is a new topic for us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we.
We're not required to. We can waive our policy and change it on the spot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got lots of options here, basically. We should either offer some, none, or all. And
Yeah.
that's where we begin.
Does the state or anything, Kevin, offer anything?
There is a process for but it's for private schools. Now, there's really no financial assistance for public schools.
For tuitioning in the public school.
So just want to ask that right off the bat then. Do you have any other input on this from your
And
experience?
just for my experience, anytime you make this consideration, if you do go this way, you do want a process.
Right, so I think we should go back to the policy committee, right? Just to see, or do we want to discuss it, even accepting it, or going with it, or?
Well, you know, I'm not opposed to this, I think, to the policy committee, but we should have some direction from the board if we decide to do that, for them to consider. From my perspective, I think that, you know, this student just left the town. I mean, they've been taxpayers in the town. They're asking for some mitigation of the cost to be appreciated. One of the first things that came to mind for me was, how does that, you know, kind of impact our policy with the staff and their students?
Right.
And that we do require the staff to pay for additional children that come here, even though they're part of our community, so to speak. But this is one of those things where, you know, we're seeing a mutual benefit here. I mean, it's not costing us any more to tuition this kid to our school. Our costs are going to be the same this year with or without the student. There's added benefit to the student in the classroom. So I would like to consider maybe mitigating some of the costs, you know, dropping the $10,000 down. And the first thing that popped into my mind was that we require a $2,500 tuition payment from our staff for additional children. And does that seem like something that might be worthy of consideration? Meaning, like, if that number's already in our policy, maybe adopting that as some sort of policy around that, meaning like if a student attended grades here before and is leaving, like, I don't know if we can create a policy specifically towards this or not. And just saying that it's, it would be $2,500, reducing it from $10,000 to $2,500. It gets us skin in the game. I'm sure any amount we would do would be appreciated, and it's a significant drop. But it's also, you know, like we asked staff to do for additional children. So I didn't want to disrespect the staff by just saying that, you know, we'll accept this kid in at zero tuition. I think that we should.
I appreciate you tying it to the fact that it has been because of the tenure. I think like just saying that it seems really sticky to start getting into, like, you know, create a policy for exception on tuition, and then we start talking about based on financial need. I mean, you know, how do we handle that? But if we're saying, if the master criteria for what you were saying, Jerry, is that this person has had a tenure and has moved out of town and it's for, I mean, I think that that's an interesting way to frame it, right? To say like for their final year or for, it's like what we say for the final 2 years, And I appreciate you sort of allying it to something that's already there. It's complicated. I mean, I think is it?
It's a slippery slope to
Yeah.
some extent, and I like that idea. You have to have good parameters, it gives us something to put a stake in the ground about. I don't necessarily want to go through the rigmarole of necessarily making policies if we're going to get one-off cases, which is probably going to be what we're going to get more often than not, if anything,
Yeah.
is one-off cases like this. It does benefit us to have the student in school. They have a history with us that seems to be positive based on the recommendation of Gail saying we should go forward with this. I don't want to insult the teachers, certainly.
Yeah.
With that in mind, I don't know if I'd go down to exactly
Yeah,
their
that seems
level.
So maybe that's more would make more sense.
Like, I'm thinking half would be more, because, the town people are gonna come and they're gonna say, we're spending $28,000 a year to send our kids to school here, and now some of these rough towns only spend, 5,000 or 10,000.
Yeah.
You're gonna see with 10,000 already.
Well,
So-
limiting one student from the school would only increase our per student
I know
costs.
that, but I'm just saying from a town employee, like people who've come here in front of the board and says,
What's the increase in our per student cost?
if we add a student,
Huh?
it'd be like nothing.
No, our per student cost would go up if we eliminate a child from enrollment.
Got it, okay, yeah. But all right.
I don't know, I think it's a real slippery slope. If I were a teacher and I heard your tuitioned in or whatever, I'd say, gee, I don't know, the 2,500, you don't have legs to stand on. I guess this has been a good student, they've lived here, but the next time somebody comes, if they come, and their kid was not a stellar student, and you do not, I don't know, I'm not saying create a policy, but you don't need a lack of having one. What is the best way to?
I mean, we have a tuition policy, it's 10,000.
Right.
And that's what we have. There are organizations in town, there's the Kiwanis Club they could approach, that gives, significant money.
Mhm.
There's the Goldberg organization, I think that's what
Ham?
they call them.
What does Ham do, anything for kids? I know that,
So there are other, areas where they could get some savings, and potentially that would be what I would look for Vicki Hill to help, with local funding, like that she should be able to point them in some direction, as if a child were looking for John Hopkins or something, say, here's some extra, potentially some extra funding we could look for, to help out in the situation. I mean, the other counteroffer, they lived in town, I don't know what their needs are, but are they not gonna come if they don't get financial aid? Like,
Because
you can't ask that.
There's only one way to find
You
that
can't
out.
ask that.
And, we're on strong grounds just to say, here's our tuition policy, we're following it,
Right.
and go with that. That's the smart thing to do.
it is, but, knowing what a little bit I know about this, I'm almost, I'd say pay them thing, but I'm just worried, I don't think that's the proper thing to do. From a heart standpoint, you're trying to make it the best. Obviously this family's had to move and there's that piece of it, and this child must realize, I need to possibly go another place.
Yeah.
Just to kind of keep the family dynamics down.
I mean, we could give them $500 credit for every year they've already.
I was thinking something similar. I'm like, is there some rubric where, like, if you've been for this many years, then, and you have this many years, like, it's like a formula. If you've been here for this many years, you have this many years left, presto changeo, here's, like, the potential if you ask for this amount of financial aid to show, like, per your point of, like, the good faith in the community. But that would be something that we could then run the formula for someone else. They've been here for 1 year, they have 5 years left, to feel like, is that something that we can get behind and would feel like we can apply it to other people? I do get worried about, I know so many of these things for our school will be one-offs, but I think it's it makes me feel uncomfortable to think that we're gonna make a one-off decision versus saying, like, why are we doing this? What could this be based on? Even if it isn't a policy that's like, this is a rubric that we can use.
I wouldn't mind doing like not even a tax credit, but a credit for years served.
Mhm.
You know, like we get $500 off every year for being a veteran of your
Mhm.
property tax, you know.
And the more and more I listen to this
So,
conversation.
The more it just becomes so
Yeah, it's
complicated.
just really,
It seems like we're
Slippery
trying
slope.
to.
I think we all want to help. I think that the problem is that there's not
There's not really a way to do
there's
it.
not a way to do it that doesn't
That's
feel,
equitable, fair.
Right.
and that doesn't create.
I think we'd like to
Is
stay
there
with,
a sliding scale, much like private schools would do, based on?
then we'd have to get, and I'm fine with that, if we can talk with them and get more
You'd have an
personal. They'd
application.
have to have an
We
application.
have to have a financial aid application,
Right.
but do we have any mechanism
We
for
have
that, and is there
the
any?
right to even ask for that.
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, I would feel like we should say we stick with our tuition policy, it's 10,000, but here are some other organizations locally that might be able to help you out.
And so I think that's probably the smart thing to do. And what we do is we bounce this back to the policy committee to look at our tuition rate
Yeah.
and see if
I mean,
it
this
should be
was
more
done years
complex.
ago.
If it should be more complex, if it should be more now, if it should be less now.
That's a great idea, Terry.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't change it in
But at
the
least we
future.
use this as a way to say, is this the right way to handle it? Yeah.
And in fact, this might be low, this was done.
I was gonna say, there
Years
could be
ago.
an irony of, yeah.
So this might be a little low right now. I mean, because I'm sitting here looking at the empty chairs, but they're gonna be full, and there are gonna be questions, like our students come here and they pay $28,000, $22,000 a year to come here, and now we're tuitioning in somebody for $10,000. Granted, it's not costing us anything to add that student, and it is, and this year, it's a benefit to have that student here.
Yeah,
But still, these taxpayers are paying for
absolutely.
our kids to come here, and they're paying more than double what we're tuitioning somebody in for.
I think, Jerry, your idea of this prompting us to ask the policy committee to review what our tuition policy is smart and is in integrity with what we're all sort of saying, are there other options that we didn't know? Right now, let's follow this policy because it's what we have, and let's also take a moment and say, is this the right policy? And for your point, Jen, like, maybe we find out that it is too low. Maybe we find out that, how unfortunate would that be? But I think that it's probably valuable to be able to re-examine that. What are other schools, what are costs from other schools in the Valley of tuition in?
So, well, Bartlett, you tuition students to Bartlett.
Yeah, but is it the same for any age?
Yeah, K through 8.
Okay, I didn't.
Yeah. So it's based on per pupil cost.
Mhm.
You pay about $27,000 a year to send people to Bartlett. Hart's location,
So just to clarify,
Pays
if
20.
someone from
Hart's
if
location.
someone from Jackson who's in third grade wanted to go to Bartlett, we would pay $27,000 for them to go there?
Well, you could, if you wanted to, if they were private citizens, that's what they would cost. So here's a primary example.
Yeah.
Kennett Middle School,
Yeah.
right? There are all these tuition agreements, and there's a formula that people pay per pupil. They have football. You always have these Tamworth parents, and actually Bartlett parents, and that's how it started,
Yeah.
saying, how much would it cost
Yeah.
for my kids? I get these phone calls all the time.
Yeah.
It depends on what town it is and where they want to go. So it varies, it varies from.
But that's not a cost to the taxpayer. That's a private, that's like to the family. If you want to send your child to a different school, if you live in Tamworth, there's a private citizen, whatever those are.
I think there is.
Are there costs? Do other schools,
Do other schools even accept, do this?
not through the school system, but through?
So Hart's location does pay for their children to go to Bartlett.
That's because Hart's location. What I'm trying to find out is there a family cost that exists from other schools? Does Bartlett have a price that they say, you're a family that doesn't live in Bartlett?
Now they go to the
No.
tuition cost, whatever it is. So if it's $27,000, it's $27,000.
So so in some ways,
We're
that's
already
a very,
getting 50% off.
so that's a very helpful framework, right? It's like that so based on what I'm hearing, what you're saying, Kevin, is like, look, in reality, we offer people a way, should they meet the criteria, to tuition into Jackson for 40% of the cost of, what our per pupil cost is, which is remarkably different than other schools in the district. I just think that that's, for all of us to just land and listen to that and hear that, and be like, wow, that's
Right, you weren't here when we did this.
Yeah.
This was before your time.
Yeah, but also just
Right,
to
so
kind of
yes,
capture
that's
that,
what we did.
because it's not a, right? Did I get that correct?
You did.
Okay.
They teach you in superintendent school someplace that if there's a policy, you stick to the policy until you change the policy. And that's
Right.
my take. is-
Yeah.
And I'm comfortable with that. And I don't mind also like saying, you know, there's other organizations in town that you can apply to possibly help out at this time. And then we might be reconsidering the tuition contract through the policy, but that doesn't affect you at
I
this
think
time.
you move to send it to policy committee, you can have a discussion about, do you want to have a sliding fee based upon
Needs.
the free reduced hot lunch population, right? So if you qualify for free lunch, you pay this.
Exactly.
If you qualify for reduced lunch, maybe that's the breakdown, you know?
I mean, to me, that's almost overcomplicated.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think we just want to, from my standpoint, I think that we've accepted the child under the parameters of our current tuition policy.
Yeah.
What I really want to look at is, does it make sense to even have a tuition policy anymore? Do we want to tuition kids in it anymore? I mean, when we developed this program, we talked about that $10,000 a lot. I don't remember everything that was behind it. At the time, it made sense to me. We started out at $6,000, and we eventually got up to $10,000. And we talked a lot about our per student cost, Bartlett's per student cost. It actually spurred Bartlett to say at the time, we're going to go our per student cost. That's what our tuition policy is going to be. Because Bartlett will accept, if Jackson student wanted to go to Bartlett, you could send them there.
I could send, I could stay at 20, whatever.
If they accepted
Yeah.
the child, you know, for tuition, and they would charge you their per student cost. But I think the things of why we chose $10,000, because it was somewhat competitive then. It was like there were students that wanted to come here
Yeah.
to tuition in.
And it was an asset to our school to be able to have.
Right,
Yes.
Absolutely.
That was
And it's always hinged on the idea that it doesn't add anything to our budget cost
Yeah,
for this.
which I mean, to me, at face value, still makes sense, like, we're still odd, right, in that mix, that still makes sense to me.
In fact, we used to have to caution our staff members that, you know, our policy says it doesn't add to the budget cost. So if you start your kid here
Yeah.
in second grade, if by the time they're in fifth grade, it's adding to our budget for the year,
Yeah, you might have to.
you might have to no longer, so we had to caution them
Yeah,
that.
interesting. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think it's time to revisit the tuitioning period,
Makes sense.
not necessarily even the cost, but I'd like to start there. So does it make sense to even tuition kids anymore, given the way our dynamics now? And maybe we want to increase that number, maybe we keep it here for circumstances like this,
Yeah.
where it happens, but okay, we
Yeah.
have this, it's not added to the costs, and it's $10,000, maybe it makes sense.
But in this case, that's not gonna solve for this, that in this case, this is what we're.
This policy states nothing about the board having discretion on
No.
the tuition amount. This all tells whether, if they'll
No, it's
fit,
straight out.
there's no reference at all to having, even one sentence that would have said,
Yeah.
it's at the board's tuition.
No, we didn't want.
Tuition rate is at the board's discretion.
Right, we
You
didn't want.
didn't want that, but there's not anything to hang your hat on.
Not
in
for
this
this policy,
policy.
somebody applying, right?
We have the authority to waive policy whatever we want to, though. We can create policy right now. It's not a smart thing.
Well,
I'm just saying.
yeah, and all those seats will be full, so, and that, you know,
Right,
which
well,
is,
Gail has wisdom to add.
Okay,
I
so,
was just want you to understand that I don't bring everyone to you because I tell people what the tuition is. So there have been typically 1 to 3 requests each year from people moving or from other towns who want to come here, and for them, $10,000 makes it not possible to them.
and we couldn't
Even if
even,
they, especially if they have more than one child.
Yeah.
So just.
I think given that information, now I think it's definitely not smart to waive our current policy on
Yeah.
it. And it's-
It just becomes a Pandora's box.
okay, so what are we, let's wrap this up with.
Yeah.
We never made
This
a
question.
motion.
Yeah, we
No, we're gonna make a motion, so
You don't need to-
motion,
You don't need
Don't need
to.
to.
oh, so we don't need to, we're not going to.
Just
We're not doing
follow
anything.
policy.
Yeah, follow
We
the-
accepted the student under the terms of the policy, and it's up to them now to make a decision whether they want to.
Come or not.
Or not.
So, Okay, and a sub-part of that one's off the table, it's done. We're gonna report back that they're welcome to come for $10,000 a year.
Yep.
based on our tuition.
And I think the policy committee.
Should we look at this, do you wanna send this to the policy committee?
Yeah, and I think that the direction
I
should
think
just
it's
be,
worthy.
look at the tuition policy in general, does it make sense to still have it? And
Is
if
it
it
right
does,
now?
what should the numbers be?
Okay.
And I don't think there's any rush for it. I mean, it's like,
No.
they don't need to put it on any kind of high priority.
And I don't think that that request is,
Kevin?
I'm all over it, Jen.
and I don't think that request is coming in.
Also, this month.
Okay.
That's all right.
I don't think that request is supposed to have that, it's not coming in with a mandate of like, the board is recommending that we get rid of it, the board is, we're like, let's revisit this. Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
If it's still current, if
Great.
it is great, if it isn't,
Yeah.
what changes should we make?
it's like a week.
Okay, all right, good, I feel good about it, that's fine.
And, I mean, from my standpoint, I like the fact that there's nothing to hang your hat on here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not looking for the policy committee to put things in here to make it
No,
more
no, this is-
complicated.
This is
Yeah.
perfect.
No, I'm not saying
It's
it
worked well.
is, it's just, you
Good
know,
job, former
if you
team.
gave the money, then there's nothing there that,
Right, good. All right, I think we can, I think we're all good. All right.
Yep.
Date for next meeting is September 19th. Good on that, right?
Yes.
Okay, and citizen comments? Hank, you want to scam again?
Um,
Okay, Hank, do you have anything you'd like to add or say?
anything, Hank?
No, no,
You good?
All right, non-public?
none.
None? All right.
motion to adjourn.
Most second at 7. Perfect. Thank you guys very much.
Yes.
Again, I really appreciate you changing the meeting to today. It was super helpful.
Glad that we support.
Good luck for anniversary day.